Hello, everybody, and welcome to Mile High Stadium and Power Field here in Denver, Colorado. I'm Hondo Carpenter. I am your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on Sports Illustrated and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider podcast. And for the third time this year, I'm coming to you from a loss. And I think more importantly, for the third time, I'm coming to you from a loss where the Raiders literally gave another game away. At some point, I'm going to have to stop saying that they gave a game away and start saying they're just not that good because you are what your record says you are. And this team is 2-3 and has given away 3 games. I 100% believe they've given away 3 games. I think it's very clear the way they roller coaster, and quite frankly, they've done that the entire 5 years I've covered the team. But the way they roller coaster, they're just not mentally tough. And I got a lot of respect for the gentlemen in that room. I like them. And some of them I think are completely mentally tough. But for the most part, the vast majority, no, I don't. And that's witnessed by being teams that are up and down, up and down, up and down. That's clearly indicative of a team that isn't just mentally tough. They're not able to handle success, so then they get loose, then they get angry after a loss, they come back in a win. I mean, would anybody be shocked with a win next week? I wouldn't. But at the end of the day, they're now sitting here and they're 2-3, and they are exactly what their record says they are. Even though they've added more talent, they're a below 500 team, which is just about where they were last year. I don't think very many people would argue with me. There's more talent here than what the record indicates. And the record and the schedule's about to get a whole heck of a lot tougher. But it is no other way to word it than mental toughness. To see what you saw at Baltimore, to then come back and lose to Carolina the way they did, and then responded so well, beat Cleveland, and then literally come here. They started out strong, should have been up 17. Gardner Minshew throws a horrible, horrible pass that gets pick sixed, and the team literally just folds. Now, in their defense, I don't think they quit. They just folded. It was literally like they were expecting something bad to happen rather than the way they were for the first 3 drives prior to the pick six. They were out there making bad things happen. I mean, you literally, and I want to give a shout out to one of my followers who literally said on Twitter, and I could not find the tweet afterwards, that they're going to make Bo Nix look great because they always take some, and I'm paraphrasing here, but some crappy quarterback and make them look great. And they did that today. They made Bo Nix, who is not a great quarterback, in my opinion, look like Peyton Manning in a Denver Bronco jersey. There's a lot of Raiders tonight who just left who should be utterly embarrassed. There were a few that shouldn't. Maxx Crosby was tremendous. Robert Spillane was tremendous. AJ Cole, Daniel Carlson. And I think maybe you could find 5 to 8 guys, I think probably 8, that have to walk away from this game completely befuddled because of how their teammates played. And I don't want to hear one word about, oh, it's the Devontae drama. Come on, stop it. The Devontae drama had nothing to do with this game. And had they won, it wouldn't have had anything to do with this. Those are 2 separate issues. I'm not even going to talk about Devontae tonight. I'll get into that tomorrow's podcast, but complete, utter disaster. They were bad. I mean, tackles. There were more missed tackles today than I have excess pounds. It was horrible. In fact, I put video up of Gardner Minshew in the locker room, Aiden O'Connell in the locker room, Antonio Pierce's post-game press conference, and then you've got to go watch Maxx Crosby. You have to. It's must watch TV. And very upset, very angry. There was some laughter. And I mean, he can only do what he can do. The guy's not 100%. I was told by someone in the organization last night they thought he was going to play because he's Max, but they didn't think anyone else on the team would play. And he still goes out. And let me just read you his stat line because this guy just keeps pouring it on. This guy just keeps doing what he does. So here's Crosby. Crosby had 3 tackles, 2 sacks. And they still were moving away from him. So he did tremendously well. But at the end of the day, the Raiders had their most penalties of the year. I mean, stupid penalties. Penalties before the snap when you're on defense, unforced penalties, just ridiculous. If I was Antonio Pierce and I brought those guys in tomorrow, I would watch the entire game on slow-mo. Now, I'm going to say this, and this is not going to be popular. I didn't see guys quitting. I just saw guys just making dumb plays. They should have to watch that. They should have to watch that. And there was a great crowd of Raiders here today. Great crowd. People paid a lot of money to come and see them, and they didn't show up. I mean, they came out strong. And then that one pick six by Minshew, and they folded. They folded. What are some complete recaps of this? And I'm going to get into some other things. If it were me, and I have no issues with Gardner Minshew whatsoever, if they think there's a chance that Aiden O'Connell has something, then I would start Aiden O'Connell and find out. Because at this point, it looks to be like they don't have a quarterback. And that's going to have to be priority number 1 of the offseason. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, there wasn't a quarterback in the last draft that they had access to or were able to go up and get. So they did the next best thing and took Brock Bowers. I don't blame them for that in the least bit. I have no blame for this organization for that. I know that everybody wishes the quarterback situation. Now, they could have went and got Kirk Cousins. That's an argument. And in the interest of fair disclosure, Kurt's a friend. So, but I would not have done that if I had been them. So based on the situation and where it's at, if they think that there's life in Aiden and they're not sure, then I think they absolutely have to play him. If they think they already know, then you can go Gardner, Aiden. It doesn't really matter. And you get through the year and you have a very good team with a lot of weapons that you can build on, and you go in that direction. But I think that's if it were me, that's exactly what I would do. Let's just go through, and I even hate to do this. Another guy. I talked about Carlson. I talked about AJ. I talked about Spillane, Maxx Crosby. I told you the 5 to 8 guys. Brock Bowers is one that played really well, and there were a couple others. It wasn't just those 5, but again, about 8 guys that shouldn't be embarrassed. Let's talk about this. Brock Bowers, 12 catches, 97 yards, and a touchdown, and he made a catch, a Gronkowski type catch. Phenomenal for a touchdown, as a 57-yard touchdown. Jacoby Myers, 9 targets, 6 catches, 72 yards. I thought Jacoby at times was really good. There was some plays that he made that as a WR1, he can't make those. Amir Abdullah, 3 for 3 on passing. Alexander Madison, 3 targets, 2 catches. Trey Tucker, 5 targets, 2 catches. DJ Turner, 4 targets, 1 catch. Let's talk about rushing. Amir Abdullah, 42 yards. Alexander Madison, 38. Gardner, 22. He used his legs on the first two drives phenomenally well. I mean, this team came out on fire. It looked like they were going to go up 17-0 or 17. I don't remember what it was, 17-3, I think. But totally in command till that pick six. Trey Tucker, 2 rushes for 8 yards. DJ Turner, 1 for 5. I mean, they ran for 115 yards. And they passed for 231. AJ Cole, 5 punts. He was great. Just, you didn't see a whole lot of life in punt returns. Punt coverage was horrible. But then you go over and you look at Bo Nix, 19 of 27, 206 yards, sacked 3 times, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Let's look at some other stats because, I mean, this is just going to frustrate you. The Broncos were 3 of 12 on third down, 25%. That's it. The Raiders were 7 of 15, 47%. And they still got blown out. Raiders were 330 yards, Denver with 289. I mean, let me just go down here. I want to read this one to you. This one's going to really tick you off. Raiders, 1 of 1 in field goals. Told you Daniel Carlson was fine. But look at this, because this is the one that's just going to baffle you. Raiders had the ball 31 minutes to 28 for Denver. To 28 for Denver. Penalties, 11 for 79 for the Raiders. 11 for 79. 11 for 79. Season high. I mean, broken tackles everywhere. I asked AP after the game, I said, you were a great player. He was known as a great tackler. Tackling issues are not something that has been an issue since he's been here, but we've seen it a couple times this year now, and they work on it every day. Every day. I thought Luke Getzey's offense the last 2 weeks had really shown us what we saw all preseason. But once the pick six happened and the players then began to act like something bad was just going to happen, it collapsed. I'm going to be talking with Luke. I think it's on Thursday, and I'm going to talk to him about the offense. I'll make sure I put that video up for you, but it's just baffling to me. Baffling that this Raider team can be playing 3 winnable games they just threw away. Now, are they young? They are. But I made a comment. There were some penalties on Jackson Powers Johnson and DJ Glaze. You expect those from rookies. But when you see veterans making dumb rookie mistakes, that's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. Period. I mean, this is a team last year that had multiple games of 0 penalties. And you know what? I'm willing to take the rookie penalties and to let guys get experience and grow. I'm all for it. Jacorian Bennett, look how good he's playing this year. Okay, I'm all for it. But at what point do you just say to guys, what are you doing? Literally. And this is where the players now, I don't want to hear another word about respect. I don't want to hear another word about anything. Put your nose to the grindstone and fix it. Because the proof of the pudding's in the eating. And the eating is you've got your butt kicked by 3 teams you should have beaten. You just made Bo Nix look like Peyton Manning. Bo Nix. Now, I said something in my podcast the other day that I need to correct because I was wrong. I want to pull this up because it's important to me for accountability's sake. As you know, Drew Stanton is considered by many one of the best quarterback scouts in the NFL. Had a tremendously long career, a very good career. And he put out his list and gave it to us. He put out his list of the quarterbacks before the draft and gave us his opinion on the quarterbacks. And he said that he would not select Bo Nix at all. And I made the comment yesterday that he said he would not have selected Caleb Williams in the first round. That's not accurate. He did say he would. I was thinking about a GM who I told you told me that was not him. And I'm not going to put words in anybody's mouth. I said it. I own it. And I want to just correct that to you because I want to be accountable. But so here is where the Raiders now find themselves. They have buried themselves. Coming into the meat of the schedule, they've buried themselves. Now there's some teams that are definitely beatable, but they can't play the way they've played in these 3 losses. They can play like they played in the first quarter and beat everybody remaining on their schedule. To me, that's the frustrating part of covering this team. When they play the way they played in the first quarter today, prior to that pick 6 in the second quarter, there's nobody on this schedule they can't beat. No, they're young. And not all of them, but a lot of them. So I'm going to give them a mulligan because you can't expect them to play at that high of a level the whole season. If they were a little bit more mature, you could. But it goes back to the mental toughness. Why were Belichick's teams so good for so long? Because they didn't roller coaster up and down and up and down and up and down. They didn't need to have the pregame pep talk to get fired up. They didn't need the disrespect, the bad press. They competed against themselves. I've shared with you many times, Nick Saban said to me, and to a few others once, that at Alabama, they're playing a standard of themselves. And that's who they're competing against. The Raiders lost today, not just to the Denver Broncos, they lost to themselves. And that's how they have to look at it. They let themselves down. Yeah, they let Raider Nation down. But you hope, and I believe I know these men, that it bothers them even more that they let their brothers down and they let themselves down. I'm going to be watching very closely their response. The fact that they can get up and get a big win against Baltimore, then collapse, get a win against Denver, then collapse. Again, I keep saying this, but the moral of the story is this team is not mentally tough, which is stunning because their head coach is, and Maxx Crosby is, Robert Spillane is, Christian Wilkins is, but this is not a mentally tough team. So the complete recap is I would be going with Aiden O'Connell the rest of the way, unless they feel like they already know. If they're convinced, hey, Aiden's not the guy, which I know coming into the season before training camp, they were not sure of that. But if they believe that he isn't, and then it doesn't matter who they play, Aiden or Gardner. But if they're not sure, they've got to play Aiden. But we know this. If it is Aiden, he's got to completely step up because this is too good of a team to waste. They need a quarterback, and they need one desperately. And a lot can change. Aiden could get the opportunity and come in and really shine. Or they could, any number of things. But I'll tell you this, they don't at this moment right now have a franchise quarterback. And you can't win on a consistent basis without a franchise quarterback. The Raiders don't have one. They have one that could potentially develop if they feel that way, but they don't have one right now that they can call a QB1. They've got to find it because until they do, they're never going to win consistently. The complete recap is this: it was an absolute disaster. This is one of those games where a Raider fan just turns it off. If I wasn't getting paid, I wouldn't have watched. I'm not a fan, but I wouldn't have watched. It was 34-18, and it wasn't that close. It was a real stinker. Horrible. See you back in Vegas tomorrow, everybody. God bless you. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to have the latest for you, including tomorrow. We're going to start looking ahead at the best quarterbacks available in the draft. We're going to look at quarterbacks available in free agency later in the week. We're going to have a lot. We're going to have a lot. Squarely keeping our foot in this season, but with one eye looking to the future as the meat of the schedule's coming. I'll see you tomorrow. God bless you, everybody. Thank you for sharing part of your day with me.